Going to call to order this meeting. It is February 19th, 6 p.m. This is our city council meeting. We're going to start off with a pledge of allegiance by Councilman Campbell and an opening prayer by Councilman Williams. Please rise. Please rise. And begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening, ask a blessing on this little group of assembled citizens. Thank you for the recent moisture we received. Thank you for this great country that we live in. Help us to do what is right in all that we do, both here and at home. We say these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Joey. Thank you, Chuck. We're going to move into our approval of the agenda. And everybody like the agenda order this evening?
I move that we go ahead and approve the agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody have any declarations of conflict we need to disclose? Great. We're going to move on to D, consent agenda. Review and possible approval of meeting minutes from February 5th, 2025 City Council meeting.
Mayor,
Go ahead.
make a motion that we
It's good for me.
approve the meeting minutes from February 5th City Council meeting.
Second it.
I have a motion and a pair of seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Item D2, review and possible approval of city expenditures from January 2025.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the city expenditures for January 2025.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the expenditures? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. We're going to move into our public forum. All right, public forum is now over. We're going to move into our business items.
No one here.
No one is here for public forum, so we're either doing something wrong or we're doing everything right. Either way, we're good for this evening. All right, item F1, discuss the possible action on approving change order number 16 in the amount of $335,903.14 from JP Excavating for traffic control on the Toccoa Parkway project.
So, Mayor, if you would like, I could kind of explain
Absolutely.
some of the background on this. If you see in your packets, there's multiple invoices from JP. This was to maintain that. When they started it, they submitted a traffic control plan for that south end. They started down that path. Then we had the failures of the south side, the north side. So this is kind of over the course of quite a few months there. And they had to change different things quite a bit. Then at the same time, Rocky Mountain Power started doing their improvements, and their traffic control plan was approved by UDOT, and they overlapped into each other, which was good if they would have finished up their project as quickly as their schedules showed. The problem was they ran into basalt. The contractor couldn't get through that, broke multiple bits, added to the timeframes and things such as that. At the same time, JP was just waiting for us to be able to, do the change orders for the cut, this other thing, the power lines, the different things. And so they really came in, UDOT came in and said, hey, we've got a very unsafe, because it's extended beyond the time frame that we thought it would be. The approved plan was for a short period of time. And they said, we can obviously see this is part of what we did in our meetings that we've been meeting with UDOT, with you, Councilman Campbell. And so anyway, with that, they came back and said, we need to have something that will last through the end of the summer. And that's safe for the general public until we get ready to do the tie-ins. And so it was quite significant. They had to add more asphalt. They added a Jersey barrier. They widened the lanes there, put a double yellow stripe. It became a lot better. Then they also striped the turn lanes into Joy Creek, removing a bunch of the traffic control that was needed there. And so there's multiple things here. You go, geez, that's a lot of money for traffic control. but it's over the course of probably,
Yeah, and
6
with all the
months.
changes.
and all of the
Right.
delays and things like that that pushed them beyond what their original one was. There was a lot of complaints from citizens, and then finally UDOT just said, okay, enough's enough. We got to make this safe, guys, until we can get this road open on a full-time basis. So that's what you have right now.
Okay, any questions for Darren?
Yeah, so why are we getting such a, from July 2024 to November 24 for?
Because that's the
Why
time
is that so
frame.
late coming?
Um,
Because that's on their standby time when they're not really doing nothing there. They were
you know,
working on-
because in November 2024 is probably when they finished that up. I don't know if that's because Stanley or whoever took so long to process the change order. Because we're looking probably, that's like you're saying, that's probably what, a 3-month turnaround.
Yeah, July's a long time away to,
Yeah, and
Bill,
really
turn back
the
July
work,
2024.
is done. Usually you get a change order before, but this came after, and the work has already been done. So JP kind of put their, and said, hey, you bet, we realize that this is not safe. We're going to do a better thing. They submitted what they were doing to UDOT. UDOT approved it and said, yeah, this is what needs to be done. Let's get it done as soon as possible. So by November, end of November, they had that in place and things were a lot better. And I can't comment to the reason why it's taken so long for, what's his name, Stanley to get this to us, but what is in front of us now.
yeah, almost.
Well, most of the invoices that I'm looking at are 90 days behind.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy. All of this, it seems like all of this happened in November. And why 90 days later, they decide to send an invoice for $300,000? That's,
I would say that the invoice was probably submitted in November by JP. I would have to find out. I'm not sure when it was submitted to Stanley for payment. I don't know if you can.
It looks like to me that it's double dipping because the invoice prior to that is for 202,000 and that has traffic control on it. And that date is dated 11/26/24. So there's overlapping those invoices and are we getting double dipped on that traffic control? Because it's got it in both of them and some of the stuff is kind of the same.
I can ask the questions and see that.
Because it appears to me that once they finished up that one slope on the south, they had traffic control set up prior to that. And now this next invoice is dating it clear back to July 2024 and adding traffic control to it. But you go back up here and this one goes from July to November and you got traffic control on that one. So I think you might want to check to see if you're getting double dipped on that.
These are just revised estimates.
Well, I'm looking at the dates and the
Yeah,
work performed.
If you add every estimate up here, you're looking at $700,000. So
Yeah,
they're just duplicate estimates revised for the original.
I was just going to say that.
I know that
I
there were
see.
modifications made
I kind of see that as
recently down
normal.
there. So my question
What
is,
you need to look at is
those
this one.
recent modifications, are those invoices here now
This is the
for
one that's
them?
confusing
Or
because, see,
are we
this
going to
is-
get another
This
batch?
is July.
I'm
July
here to
2024.
tell you you'll get some more because if it goes beyond what they're, because they
That's when
have
it's- that's when it's
maintenance.
Filled out.
I'll wait till they're done.
Okay,
Keep going all the way to the top.
I think we're running over the top of each other, but.
right, and we're
This is
kind of talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
Same invoices.
So,
Same. just-
yeah, so you will see additional. There is also a traffic control element that you're going to see for the north end, the north tie-in. And there's an estimate on that. I cannot remember exactly what that is, but to do that, and it's going to be kind of not a permanent, but a temporary type of scenario,
Yeah.
same type of scenario as what you're seeing on that south end. They're going to lower the traffic down to 35 miles an hour. And there's, they're actually adding more asphalt on that one side of the road, on the east side of the road, to accommodate another through lane and make it safe so that they can give that temporary access.
But that traffic control wasn't already
They didn't implement that until they
considered?
Not in this, not in these. These are only for the south end. And you will see
Well,
some
on
maintenance.
the original proposal.
Yeah, there was for just a
Well, not
tie-in.
that's
This is
part
a
of it.
longer prolonged. So we're not just gonna go right to a tie-in, we're gonna go into a temporary partly tie-in and have traffic control for a couple months.
So how
And then
did
we finally do the tie-in.
If Jeff.
So it's definitely gonna be in addition to the original
He had to have traffic control in there.
traffic control. So does that make sense, Darren? Is that what I
Yeah,
explained
you're
that
right. You're right. So it is. And then they have, if it goes beyond what they're, so JP's just kind of, they're in a holding pattern until everything gets, they're studiously getting as quick as they can, but there's some things they cannot control, like Rocky Mountain Power, taking the power down off and the TDS getting the power down off. So they have processes they've given us prices for,
But
but-
first of the year. So how does that, that's where I'm
maybe
struggling.
I'll just wait.
So
So anyway,
Should we make an attempt to ask them to submit the invoices a little earlier than wait 90 days?
I think
yeah,
that might
so
be
this would be
Stanley.
the change order. Yeah, this would be Stanley, but there was a price given. This is a change order after the fact, which, and I can verify and have them give us what
So when did they set
That
the
is.
new traffic control devices up? It wasn't that,
it was in the end of November.
Yeah, when, so
So-
JP got a change order to do the electrical, to part of it. He hires Tri-State to
That's-
do it for
yeah.
him,
Yeah, he can't
but
do,
he,
so he can't, so JP is not a contractor that does that type of work. So they have a subcontractor.
they subbed it
underneath.
out, but he's in charge of the traffic control in that bid he give you.
That's for the, from the switch north of the entrance to Choya Creek up to the entrance of the cemetery. That's a whole different.
It is, but he
traffic
give you a
control.
bid for that.
He did. He gave
But
us
now-
overall everything.
Now
for that.
you're, now he's breaking it out into a whole different invoice, not with the one we approved, and he's adding traffic control in this one too.
This is, well, so I can,
Because the one we approved last month was for the electrical extension.
that includes the traffic control in
So, and then you're double dipping again right now for the traffic control.
not,
And then,
so the traffic control, you have to think of it, that power one you did was a traffic control and power installation. Whoever they use for their subs, doesn't matter. As long as Rocky Mountain Power, they read Rocky Mountain Power's requirements and things like that, pre-approved contractors type of a thing.
So they were
And
down
then-
there in July to November, doing all the work and taking all that stuff off.
Off the
And then
slope.
in November, when they realized that we got to mitigate the slope problem.
Yep.
The state said, we've got to make a change. We've got to put the Jersey barriers up. We've got to paint the lines. This is for that portion. This has nothing to do with the power line or anything. Doesn't say that in here, does it?
No.
yeah, but he's still putting description from July 24th to
So
November
there,
24th.
this invoice ended on the end of November. So anything after November is something that's completely different, a completely different project.
So you're saying we're going to get another one?
No, we already got it. We did the traffic control plan for the power line last meeting. We approved that already.
So this should be the end of the traffic control for the south end through the whole project, or is this going to be?
There's gonna be a change when they do
Yeah,
that, when they actually
When
do
they
the
actually do
tie-in,
the tie-in, we'll have.
there's gonna be another traffic control.
Okay.
Yes, and they've got that in their bids to finish that tie-in as well, because that was in the very original first bid.
Exactly.
So there will be additional money, but it won't be a change order. It'll just be payment of the original.
Right, the original
Bid
number.
package.
Right.
B.
B, yeah, the traffic control.
Now,
in that
that's the
part.
way I understand it. Now, I can verify that for you,
But
Wayne,
that
and
won't
get back to you.
happen because it's overlap now. So he's going to hit you again for traffic control.
Well, anytime he goes out there and does a major change, he's gonna he's gonna hit us for
'Cause
another
he's got
traffic
kinda like
control, just like you
To
would.
do the north end now and.
Yeah, and you know, that you would do the same thing, because if you have to change that majorly, then that was a major change, you know, he had to move those lanes over and create, I don't know if they're 12-foot lanes or 14-foot lanes, so that you could put the double yellow line in there.
Yeah.
So, I will verify that and get you further clarification though, definitely,
Yeah.
if you'd like.
So what would you guys like to see? Do you want us to table this to get verification, or do you want to approve this subject to verification?
Maybe you could do it conditionally.
Yeah, if it's okay, after it's been verified, I'd love you to be able to cut a check to
I don't know.
JP.
Can we, I think we can.
Who's
Approve with
responsible
conditions, is that
for
what you're asking?
auditing?
Yeah, you can do
Who's
that.
responsible for auditing these invoices and so
Stanley.
on?
Stanley and
Stanley, so Stanley, if you see in his letter there, he says, I approve this change order.
Yeah.
Okay, so if it's been approved and it's past due,
Well, it's-
obviously,
and it's checked by-
then we really have to just
We ought to,
sign off on it
we ought to
right
pay
now.
it, but you gotta pay it.
But to let him know, let Stanley know, we need to see the bills and they
Yeah.
need to do a better job of watching.
Okay.
Yeah, you bill every 30 days, not 6 months. Because everybody forgets.
Yeah.
So would you,
I'll move that we go ahead and approve this change order.
you want to put any
For-
kind of expectation or
It's,
conditions on it?
it's late right now.
Either way, I'll get the
Yeah,
clarification that Wayne
If we
needs.
find something wrong, then they'll make an adjustment.
Okay,
JP will work with us on this, so if there's something wrong in there. So,
I have one more portion of this discussion. So this is over and above the original traffic plan and control?
It is.
Yeah, over
It
and
is.
above
That was
what was
in-
already part of their bid.
Yeah, that was already part of bid package B.
Okay.
And remember, so like Wayne was pointing out, there's two invoices here. One is a time component.
Yeah.
And the other is a design change,
Yeah,
where it was
and
actually a
cost, yeah.
structural change for that south interchange.
Well, yeah, never mind that. Okay, that answers my questions.
Okay, so Gary made a motion to approve it. Chuck seconded it. Any further discussion on this item? This is a roll call vote. I'll start on Joey's end.
Aye.
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 Motion carries. All right, we are going to move into item F2. Discuss the possible action on resolution 2025, creating enterprise fund 51 stormwater. This is super simple. We're just going to create enterprise fund 51. Ben, take it over.
That's right. It is super simple. So this is fun government accounting stuff. So currently we're accounting for stormwater proceeds, which are fees that the city assesses in the general fund. And so all of the fees come into the general fund, and then we kind of have expenditures that also come out of the general fund, and you assume that it just kind of washes, based on the work that's being done on the stormwater system. What this proposal is doing is kind of typical for municipal government. It's pulling out these fees and putting it in its own fund. And that makes it easier to say, okay, this fund is either accruing money or it's losing money. It's basically creates its own set of financials. You're tracking the assets differently. And again, it's not an insignificant system for the city. We have 38,000 linear feet of stormwater pipe underground. So this enables us to we take those fees, and instead of just commingling them in the general fund, it pulls them out, and then we're actually more accurately tracking the costs associated with running the system.
Perfect. We have fund 50 as our water enterprise.
51 is water, and
Or
this will be
50 is water, right? Or is this?
This is 51. and
51 is water.
Okay,
No,
okay.
No, 51 is stormwater fund.
Right.
51.
This would be a typo.
Yes.
So this
So it's supposed to be 52?
52.
Okay.
If I would appreciate that as part of the motion.
Part of the motion. So basically Form 51, I thought we already had a 51, that's why I brought it up. But that is our water system. We do the same thing. We have all of our water in that. It accrues, it's a pretty good size amount, and it accrues interest, which is great. So 52 would be a stormwater fund doing the same thing. And if we can accrue money in there, invest it, and when we need to spend the money, we can pull it out of that fund and use it for stormwater fixes, which is nice.
More accountable way for
It's easier way to keep it clean. It's
Yeah.
more transparency, more straightforward. It's just, I like it.
And this is not yet creating a budget for this,
Right.
for the stormwater proceeds. So for the remainder of the fiscal year, we're going to keep it the way it is, but the budget that's proposed for next fiscal year, we'll propose a budget where it pulls it out of the general fund and creates this. We'll then functionally create the Fund 52.
Okay.
So normally if there's work that needs to be done, would that be included in the capital improvements fund?
It depends on what kind of,
Okay.
depends on what it is. If it's
Right.
maintenance, it can't be pulled out of capital. If it's
Okay.
new, that can.
So this is the maintenance side.
Yeah, and so impact fee proceeds are currently in that Fund 40, the Capital Projects Fund, but that would also be pulled out and happen within Fund 52.
So all of our, even our capital facilities money in our stormwater would go into 52 as a separate, okay.
Yep.
And it would, so, okay.
Mhm.
That makes sense? All
Ready for
right,
motion?
absolutely.
Mayor, make a motion to approve resolution 2025.XX creating enterprise fund number 52 for stormwater.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item?
This one definitely needs to be a roll call, just FYI.
Okay, we will do a roll call on Chuck's end.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Beautiful. Item F3, discuss and possible action on ordinance 2025, amending and restating Title 10, Chapter 24, Section 4 of the Tocqueville City Code, updating lighting curfews and exterior lighting standards. Emily?
Yep. So this one was drafted at the request of code enforcement and the city prosecutor, having some issues with lights that are being turned off at 11, but then being turned back on at an inappropriate time. So we added a start time curfew. And then while we were in there, Kayla made a few other changes and so did the planning commission. So she added, instead of just sport lighting, it says sport court and sports playing field. And then as you can see, everywhere it had an 11 o'clock curfew, we added between the hours of 6 a.m. and 11 o'clock p.m. Then if you want to scroll down a little bit, Mary. She updated Rocky Mountain Power to just say public or private utility company. And then the planning commission, just so that it was consistent with like the subdivision code that we just did and other chapters of Title 10, we changed lighting administrator to planning and zoning administrator and or city designee. So enforcement of this kind of is a team effort between John, myself, and then Jason if there's any kind of complaints. So as
Perfect.
a team, we are the lighting administrators.
That it?
I think so. You want to scroll down a little, Mary, and we'll see
Just more wording, the same.
just some wording changes. Yep.
So is there an opportunity for someone who has a 24-hour commercial business off the bypass down the road? Do they have to turn off their light at some point in time if they're open for 24 hours?
It does have rules in there for commercial. I think Kayla updated those.
But I think
So in terms of a commercial light curfew, it says commercial and industrial lighting shall be turned off within 30 minutes of close of business, except that lighting within 40 feet of a building outside display areas or other areas requiring security lighting shall not exceed 2 initial lumens per square foot. So your inside lights need to be turned off when you close, but you can have certain lights for security.
So if they're open 24 hours, then they could leave them on, but they still have to meet all the other requirements of the lighting ordinance. So that
Okay.
they're compliant.
Is this commercial, based on commercial, or?
Well, it's residential and there's a commercial component.
Now, how does this work for, is the existing ordinance grandfathered in for people that have a light on after 11 and all of a sudden this new ordinance comes along the way?
They would need to come into compliance with the new ordinance.
They would have to do what?
Once it's written.
I think they would have to come into compliance with the new ordinance.
It had an
Yes.
18-month period from when it was adopted
Yeah.
in 20, I don't know, maybe you guys remember, but that has since expired. So technically, everybody that's not currently in compliance, all existing lighting is now non-compliant.
Including the curfew.
Including what?
The curfew that we're adding.
Curfew. But I mean, you can have a porch light on It depends on what kind of porch light, how bright it is and where it shines. You know, so I'm not,
One thing that I would add to this, we are, the code, I don't remember if it requires or allows for an audit. And this is a project that we're currently taking on. So basically just taking a couple hours in an evening, our code enforcement officer is basically going to kind of do a light audit for the city and determine, that way we just have better information as to how many lights are compliant versus non-compliant.
Planning Commission expressed interest in raising awareness and trying to get people into compliance. So that'll be our first step. It's just kind of taking an inventory of who's out of
So this isn't going to be
compliance.
nuisance driven. This is actually going to be enforced.
Possibly.
I mean, enforcement is to be determined. Just getting an understanding of where the city's at, I think, is critical to understanding how it wants to be enforced. And that is ultimately the council's decision, right?
So you're going to try to enforce this on existing folks.
If you desire. That's your choice as the city council. That would be direction. So currently direction for code enforcement is complaint based, right? That's the current direction from city council.
Probably, yeah.
So if we were to deviate from that, we would need that direction from you.
So how do we handle all the new houses being built that aren't compliant with our night sky?
They should be as a part of their building
not.
permit. Then we would need a complaint.
Some get their certificates of occupancy held up and some don't.
Yeah.
So. you
And
need to
some
get-
people
you need to get
change
with
their
your building
lights after
department
they
guy,
have
and
a
It's got to
CO.
be consistent across the board.
well, and like Emily said, you might get somebody come in after they buy the house, they go out and change their outside lighting and didn't tell anybody. That's where we needed a complaint to have them go.
Yeah, I'm sure
fix
you
it.
have some of that too, but a lot of it has been,
So,
forgot about.
so we have one that we know did that, but there has been no complaints,
And that's,
for formal complaint.
But it is complaint driven.
Yes.
that's where the audit would help too, because John or me, whoever goes out to look at it, can only see it in the daylight,
Right.
right? And so Jason will be going out at night, which will help a lot. So we know actually who is and isn't in compliance.
Let me know when that is and make sure my lights are off.
Yeah, make sure I'll shut mine off or else we're going to have a fight.
If they're off, they're compliant.
That's right. If they're off, they're compliant.
So, okay, so first question is, the, whatever they call them, the permanent stay lights people are putting on their houses.
Oh, the bubble looking Christmas
Yeah.
light, they're all here.
Christmas
Yeah,
lights,
similar to Christmas lights that are on a computer, they can change the colors, all that kind of stuff. So those are low enough luminance that they are not under this requirement? So is that
If
correct?
they are low
Now,
enough,
there's a section for holiday lights.
That's
Yes.
well, my next question.
Yeah.
So,
so that would, he's
So-
gonna get a lumen meter, I think. So
okay,
he'll be able to check
so,
those things.
so all these people that have spent money on those and they keep them on
every night.
from dusk to dawn.
Yeah, all year long.
So, pardon me?
They keep them on all year long.
Yeah,
From
they're
dusk to
not-
dawn.
Yeah, they're not holiday lights anymore. They're-
So those are gonna now be under the new requirement, from till 11 PM?
Yeah, it's not a new requirement. We're just, basically they have to still fall under the same lumens. We're not changing lumens or temperature or
Okay, so
anything like
my,
that.
my question then
Yes,
is, are
yes.
they in the minimum where they can keep them on past 11 PM or they're not?
They'll have to be tested. We don't know. It depends on- Some want to have brighter ones than others. If they're too
Yeah.
bright, then they could
If,
turn their
if
dimmer.
there's some sort of a dimming type of mechanism, I don't know those
do.
systems at all. But if they keep them within the lumens and the others, they can stay up all night long.
Okay.
It's always said that they have to be extinguished or dimmed by 30% at 11 o'clock. We're adding the 6 AM is when you can
Right, I
turn them back.
understand why. Okay.
There is an exception in code for holiday lights,
Yeah.
but it doesn't allow for a time frame. There's no,
Which holidays?
no holidays, no months.
We have President's Day on Monday.
So you had red, white, and blue.
So, just which holiday? That's exactly it. there's enough holidays throughout the year that we could probably keep those on year round just in a holiday ordinance.
Oh, was this the red
No.
line
No,
struck
It's
that
higher
through?
up.
Them lights actually fall under the highlighting and backlighting portion, which basically means as long as they're less than 50 volts or lumens,
Right.
you can leave them on anytime you want.
Yeah.
Okay, so our
That does bring us to a good question, though. So I did add that language. So it says only low voltage systems, meaning systems that utilize 50 volts or less of electricity. I threw that number in there, but if you guys want to lower that, like what constitutes a low voltage system?
It's
That's,
kind of a lumen output.
It's the lumen,
It should be
it's in the lower part of the ordinance there. It talks about the lumens, the temperature, the different types of things like that.
Well, I don't know how
so
you-
I guess my question there is, we could lower that if there's a concern that like these holiday lights, or I
Well,
shouldn't call
yeah,
them
the-
holiday lights, but the permanent Christmas lights.
50 volts is, guys, kind of, you could put 500 lights on one string, it might have 100 volts, but it's a very dim light. If you put one 50 volt light on a light, it can be very bright. So it depends on,
It's
The
hard to
amount of
measure by
lumens.
volts to tell
Should
you
be
the
based
truth.
on lumens.
Yeah, it should be.
It's by
lumens.
lumens.
So this ordinance has already been in place. We're really just looking at changing, clearing something up. Someone can turn their light off at 11 and turn it back on at 11:15 if they want it, so to speak. And it identifies the on and off.
Yeah.
But basically, everything else is the same. And we haven't had any issues aside from one that I'm aware of as far as lighting.
I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, you guys might know, but I don't think, is there a section that says low lumen systems and it says specifically what that is that I'm not seeing right off the bat?
No, I didn't
calls
see
out.
that in there.
It does say
We should
something about.
probably, we should probably define what that is.
There is a definition section that's not in this red line.
It's not in this
Oh,
one.
Okay.
Okay.
What is it? What is the lumens, the max lumens per night? Because it really comes down to two things. If you exceed the max lumens, then if you project light onto someone else's property, right? So that's what it comes down to.
Trespass.
So right there on B1, it talks about lumens. Lumens then have a maximum output of 1,000 lumens per fixture.
Right.
Which is 60 watts, a 60 watt light bulb, regardless of number of lamps, may be partially shielded, provided the lumen has an opaque top or the under a solid overhang. So they're underneath your soffit and fascia, like where these lights are, they're shining basically down unless you're looking up at the house. So that's, they can't be brighter than a 60 watt bulb according to that, regardless of how many you have,
Each? Yeah.
each one.
Yeah, those are probably putting out.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
Not
I mean, a
even
60
a-
watt bulb is, I
not
don't
even
think
putting
any
out
of
a watt.
those are putting out anywhere near 1,000 lumens per bulb. They're
No.
probably like 50 or 60 lumens per bulb.
100 max.
Yeah, yeah.
So Christmas lights or Christmas lights in Wayne's neighborhood would have to be turned off at 11?
No, that's a holiday light exemption.
Residential holiday lighting
It's the
I'm
same
not
thing.
seeing that
Where's
there's a
that?
definition for a
shall be turned off
low.
between hours of
Lumen
There
11.
is no
system.
exemption for holiday lights.
definition in, not in the.
I
They're not
removed
seeing
it.
the
There is not
definition
an
section.
exemption. There is not an exemption for
Yeah,
holiday
it's got to
lights.
be turned off at 11.
The exemption was removed.
Oh, it is.
I removed it because it was inconsistent with this section that already existed that did say that they had to be off.
At 11.
So I did the more restrictive one.
I don't know anything you can do, so I don't have to do it anymore.
Okay, so that,
So
that,
any
So number 3 is there.
Christmas
that's
lights on
the
Old
screen.
Church Road
have to be
have been banned. Is that what I'm hearing, Wayne? Is that what you're looking
No.
for?
After 11.
correct. What I said is correct. Christmas lights have to be off at 11 p.m. Okay.
Or
Okay, that
dimmed,
was-
Or
or
dimmed
dimmed
by
by
30%.
30%.
Yeah, we're dim by 30%. Okay, could you go to page 1 on D residential lighting? I'm having trouble understanding E1. So E says exceptions, lighting reductions are not required for any of the following, with the exception of landscape lighting. So is that a double, triple, negative, something or other? Could somebody please read how that's supposed to read, E1?
E1.
think it's saying that lighting for residential properties, including multiple residential properties not having common areas, is an exception, but landscape lighting is not.
Well, then why is it in there? Because it says lighting reduction is not required in any of the following areas.
And that's not something that we really looked at, and
Okay, well,
we probably should.
We're looking at this whole thing, right?
That's
So-
a good catch. Yeah, I think it's really cumbersome, to be honest. I've tried to read it like twice sitting here and it just doesn't flow that well. So
It really,
we
it
could
really comes to,
definitely-
when we do these types
do
of
some work.
reviews, so the scope of review for this amendment was this loophole. We had this 11 p.m.
Right.
loophole. And then we opened the book.
Yeah, well, you
to
guys
the
put the
entire
yellow and
code.
you put the yellow and red in there, so everything's fair game.
Everything is fair game,
Yeah.
that's
And I
for
just
sure.
grabbed that one.
So it is really easy to deviate from the original scope of review.
Well,
We get too, you know,
don't put the yellow and red in there then if you don't want to deviate.
No,
I would-
I like the yellow.
You know, one thing that could really, the one thing that could really help us, and I've said this before, is when you guys get your packets and you see that,
Yeah.
bring it up to us before we get to the meeting, and then we could actually get it changed before,
Okay.
you know,
For the big. bright
before it
things
comes
that
to
get
you,
lights.
as long as it's 24 hours before the meeting.
Okay.
Because that would be super helpful for us if you see that, rather than waiting to get here the night of and go line by line.
Okay.
It helps us to be. you know,
Okay. I'm
more
happy to
because-
do that, and I have done that in previous
Yeah.
ones, but they don't
Because
show
we
up
can,
here
we can get
sometimes.
tunnel vision, basically. We're trying
Yeah.
to fix,
That's
like,
fine.
like Ben's saying, we can get, you know.
Okay,
we're just-
well, Ben and I had another one, and that was
I
the
can tell you-
flashing lights.
I can't
right?
tell you what the definition behind E1 was meant at the intent of when we created the ordinance.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, okay, well,
I
to
happened
go,
to
to
be
go
part of
back to that.
oh
light-
yeah, I'd love to know.
To go back to that, landscape lighting needs to be reduced 30%. Correct.
It was meant to be an
If it's gonna,
exemption.
if it's gonna stay on over 11 PM, is that?
No, it was meant to be an exemption
Not
that doesn't need to be reduced.
So
I think
landscape
the
lighting
wording-
was supposed to be one of the
I
exemptions
think
that
the
didn't,
wording is
okay.
wrong, but it's supposed to
Okay.
be because you can't change
No,
like they're already a low
Individual.
voltage and they're already,
Yeah.
a landscape lighting shouldn't be pointing
On the
up and
ground,
it should be pointing down.
Yeah.
And it's a pathway to.
okay,
lighting.
so that one,
That's
the
the
intent is for landscape not lighting not to have to be reduced. Okay,
So we can just remove with the exception of.
okay. So,
If you
okay, so
want me
that's,
to.
that's good. And then solar lighting, how does that apply? Because you can't reduce that. So it's just got to be the right amount of luminums
well, yeah,
for solar lighting, or how are we going to address that?
solar lighting up or down the landscape, where we, because landscape lights are solar usually.
Where
Yeah,
you-
I'm hearing you. Yeah.
I'm throwing it out there. We're trying to
Where we-
make our ordinance as best as possible. So how
Where are
we
you
gonna
seeing
address-
that?
It's not in here at all. So I'm just trying how we're going to address solar lighting.
I would say some solar lighting is dimmable.
Lighting is lighting.
Well, that's what I'm asking, is that solar lighting is going to have to be
Well,
the,
the
solar
output of a
lighting
solar
falls
light is
underneath
still
the
in
lumens
lumens,
and
right?
Yeah.
yeah.
Falls
Yeah.
underneath the lumens and it also falls underneath on a landscape solar light, but
Okay.
there is emergencies in solar lights like
Okay.
that you would put up there. So that would be just part of the normal lighting.
Yeah, and then we talk about canopy lighting too. So does rain gutters, if lights are underneath rain gutters, does that count as a canopy to block the light going up?
Sorry.
If we talk about canopy lighting, so do rain gutters that have lights underneath the rain gutters, does that, and that blocks the light from going up, does that count as canopy lighting where it doesn't have to be reduced?
It depends.
Yeah, I'm
I
just,
wonder if, it's a good question. I wonder if canopy lights is defined, so I'll look real quick. and see.
Okay.
So,
It's not.
It's not?
It would be exempt.
so, and then another question I had is if you go to page 2, at the bottom, number 3, where it says residential holiday lighting, it says flashing holiday lights on residential property are discouraged. And then another spot, if I go down, I gotta find it again, it says flashing lights are prohibited. So I think there's a conflict there that needs to be addressed.
so
Um,
it would be
Well, I
good
think it's
possibly.
commercial.
Huh?
You might want to, I would suggest maybe tabling this tonight. No? Sorry.
No, we can fix
We
it.
can
at a
approve
later
what
time.
we got in the scope of tonight, and we can bring it back and redo.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I do
like-
think there's been enough changes suggested that I would suggest tabling it. Like you're concerned about the canopy lights. I don't think we can address that unless we define canopy lights. The
Yeah.
conflict, I don't know
Yeah,
that we
so
can
if you-
address that right now.
If you go to prohibited lighting, number 7, page 6 and 7, flashing, blinking, intermittent lights. Flashing, blinking, intermittent lights or other lights that move or give the impression of movement is prohibited. Then it says holly lighting is prohibited, but then the other one I read before, it says is discouraged. So we need to make up our mind.
Well, this
I
is
think-
this under commercial or is this
No,
under-
it's under all of it.
Well, 3,
Exempt lighting.
But it does say there that holiday lighting is permitted under flashing, so
Yeah,
it's,
but then
it's trying to
another
clear
place
it up
says
there.
discouraged, and then here it says
Commercial is
prohibited. So yeah, I don't know.
So
I would make,
I would like to tell you just really quickly, one thing is we're amending one section of the entire chapter 24.
24.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's a whole
Chapter-
there's a whole
chapter
lot more
24
that
is
you're not
like
looking at unless
500
you're looking
pages.
at the actual ordinance in the.
Yeah, and like
So
I
that's
said,
what I'm
but
saying.
I understand what you guys are saying, but you brought this to us and now it's got all the red line and yellow line. So if one thing you were doing was just amending the 11 PM to 6 AM, then just bring us 11 PM to 6 AM. But you didn't.
Well,
You
they
brought
had a
all,
couple-
I know, you
yeah.
brought all this stuff, so now we're looking at all this stuff. If you don't want us to look at all this stuff.
Every
then-
time the code comes in front of us, it's an entire code. We can
Well,
It has to be
and
the
that's
entire
the,
section.
and that's the purpose of what we're trying to do, is what you guys have been doing
They're not-
anyways.
They're not gonna bring,
Well, you guys are trying to, we're all trying to update our codes so that they are accurate, not contradictory and everything else. So if you're gonna bring us this, we're gonna look at it and make sure it's not contradictory and altogether.
Yeah.
I'm happy to look at stuff ahead of time and send it to you before. I've done that a little bit, but it doesn't always get to making it back to the council. So I have to,
do you have a list of the things that you want? Like,
I just brought up stuff that.
Oh, no, no,
I had
just a
concerns
general
with.
question.
Yeah, no, I brought up stuff that I had
So-
concerns with.
can I make a motion?
You may.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve what's in front of us for the lighting ordinance 2025.XX, reinstating Title 10, Chapter 24, Section 4 of the Tocqueville City Code to update the lighting curfews. And then, I don't know if it's part of the motion, but then I would say, let's give Planning Commission a list of items for Planning Commission to start reviewing of that.
Okay, I feel as though, so if we're gonna amend anything in here, maybe I'm just not understanding. I think we need to
So
table
I
this.
think we were
I don't think
gonna
we can
leave it-
approve it and.
Well, I think his motion is to change.
As
what we've done
is.
As the way it is. And then send it to planning and zoning to clean up. We're gonna give them a list of stuff to work on. In the meantime, it might take 2 months, might take
And
3
in
months, it might take
my
4
motion, I would
months.
like for time sensitive to pass what's in front of us.
Yeah.
Okay, so you'd like them to clean up just this section
No, they
or
can clean
the
up the whole-
exterior
they can go
lighting
through the whole
ordinance in
lighting
its
code if they
entirety?
Yeah.
I'd like planning commission to take a look at it and I'd like any
Input from.
any input from council members given to them so they can take consideration
Okay,
of it.
so the intent is to get these changes approved so we can address like
Yeah.
immediate concerns and then circle back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Would-
so I think we would just make a motion to approve it. The one thing I did have a question about though, is it sounds like we need to come up with a number for, so page 3, highlighting and backlighting. So we talked about how like voltage doesn't make any sense.
Right.
If
Oh,
we're gonna
gotcha.
approve this as is, we probably at least need to just change
It was,
that.
would you go back up to, let me see if I can find it. Hold it right there.
1,000 lumens, 60 watts.
B1, so B1, it says right there, yeah, lumens that have a maximum output of 1,000 watts, or 1,000 lumens per fixture,
Okay.
which is a 60-watt incandescent bulb, regardless of number of the lamps. So you could have 1,000 of those on your house. If they're under 60 watts or under 1,000 lumens, you can use them as long as they're off by 11 p.m. Well,
And partially shielded.
partially shielded, all that stuff on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah, I think we should clean that up.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's what you would like there is
Would-
1,000 lumens is the
would-
limitation.
really good.
Yeah. Would,
Imagine having.
Joey, would you consider amending your motion and just make a motion that we approve the light curfew between the hours of 11 PM and 6 AM? And then,
Well, what we have to prove is what's drafted in front of us. So
well, no, would you consider making a motion that we approve
just the time.
the
change.
light curfew from 11 PM to 6 AM and then direct staff and planning commission to go through the entire lighting ordinance and come back with.
There's some renumberings and stuff, so that.
Do
to
we
me
have any
makes it a little
issues
bit-
with any of the other,
Yeah,
I know
so-
that additional changes are needed, but do we have any issues with the red lines as is? I
So
mean,
I-
like just some Scrivener's errors were
I'll make
corrected.
a small amendment to the motion. So I'll amend my motion to approve it as is, except for in 8B, I would like that, meaning systems that utilize 50 volts or less of electricity to read as B1 does for the 1,000 lumens. We're gonna blast that again.
1,000 lumens per
Yeah.
fixture.
1,000 lumens per fixture. I think that would clean that up enough to pass it and renumber everything and get that started. Then we can start working on the other stuff. Because there's too many number changes and letter grammatical changes that you would have to state in there because it's already drafted.
Yeah. Okay,
Does that
that
clear
make
motion?
sense?
Can you
That
say it,
works,
can you say
yes.
it one more time, Joey, for me?
Can someone read back to me? No, I'm just kidding. My motion would be to approve it with the changes. Where is that at? It's on page 4?
The change to 8B on page 3.
Yep.
To match B1.
Yep. So I'm going to change where it says meaning system that utilizes 50 volts or less for the electricity. I'm going to switch them wording up to match B1, 1,000 lumens, 60 volt or 60 watts,
And the other changes that are been made.
and everything else is, yeah, as presented.
Okay. That clear?
I'll do that.
You got it? Okay. So I have a motion.
A second.
I have a second. Any further discussion on this item?
Yeah, I'm gonna vote no, Joey, just because I want to send it back.
You're fine.
All in
And have it
favor?
back.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No,
Okay. Motion carries. All right.
I know I don't, but
We are-
that's the reason I did.
Through our business items, we're on to calendar events. We have our spring community cleanup Saturday, which is this Saturday and Sunday, February 22nd and 23rd. The dumpsters will be around through town. We're moving them back to our normal spots, right? Okay, so we'll have one at the park. We'll have one at Sunset. We'll have one down further on Westfield somewhere.
right, Mary?
Tocqueville Heights. Where we're gonna-
Parks, so South Street, Westfield, and Trail Ridge.
Trail Ridge. Okay, also go Westfield Park instead of Sunset? Oh, perfect.
If there are limbs that people are trimming, is there still a spot there for them to be shredded, or has that been removed or what?
Last I heard, the pile's still there. Has
Okay,
not
and the
been.
fire district would like us to put as many there as we want. They will either come and burn them or shred them for us as part of their wildland. They have to do in town. They have to do $13,000 of work in Tocqueville City to keep us up. So let's pile all the limbs we can there and they'll come and take care of it.
Okay, great.
So-
All right.
What about all them stumps though? We're gonna be stuck with those.
Well, if there's stumps, and we'll put them in the dump truck and haul them to the landfill.
We'll just,
So I think we can do it.
Use them to smash the dumpsters.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's all of our items at this point. I need a motion, but no, I don't. We're just gonna close this.
No, we need a motion to adjourn.
Do we?
We do.
It depends on which
Really?
one.
Yeah.
We haven't done that in a long time.
Yeah, we kind of quit doing it. So, all right, I'll take a motion.
Maybe I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Have a motion, a second to adjourn this meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
It is 6:48. Meeting is adjourned. Sorry about that.
See, Caleb, when the